Welcome back to 23 Degrees Sideways. We're still working on this transportation theme. Pete Buttigieg, Secretary of Transportation, would like to tax people's personal vehicles to pay for his infrastructure plans. Now, as far as I can tell, and I've done a little bit of digging, but I haven't gotten everything. So correct me if I'm wrong if you're one of the 30 people who actually watch this, right? Or 7 people who actually watch this, whatever. But his infrastructure goals are pretty much all in terms of mass transit. He doesn't want to improve the highways. He wants to fix mass transit. Okay, I think there's some bridge stuff in there, but everything revolves, like most of the talking points revolve around making some sort of mass transit system. And the way he's going to budget that is by taxing people who drive, a mileage tax, like a per mile tax. And that is, it's backwards about eight ways from Sunday. Like, it's ridiculous because, one, a lot of people with a long commute who are on the lower end of the pay scale can't afford that. So you're decreasing their opportunities to work and to prosper. Number two, we already pay taxes, fuel taxes. We pay taxes per gallon to drive, right? You kind of disincentivize the gas mileage part of this if you add on another tax that's per mile, because now it matters less if you get good or bad gas mileage. Artificially inflating the price of gas, which seems to be a goal of the current administration, whoever's in charge of it, is that okay, that's a disincentive. It's fantastic, but it's a huge economic problem. Okay, so mileage tax, how is that going to work for agriculture? Because if you want to shift away from a petroleum-based agriculture, that's fine. There are ways to do that, and I'm very in favor of working that out. But increasing the costs isn't how you do it, all right? As far as infrastructure itself goes, I find that the whole notion has been politicized to the point where I don't trust anything that is being said. Infrastructure improvement was something that Democrats fought tooth and nail when the previous administration was in place. But of course, under Obama, the previous administration, it was a big deal, and America sucked because our infrastructure was crumbling, and so on and so forth. However, none of the policies actually improved that. Now we're back to that whole America sucks thing. You know, you go on Twitter, Facebook, Parler, whatever, various social media sites, and anyone who's left-oriented is going to self-hate on America. Okay? And, China spends 3 times as much as America on infrastructure. And I'm like, well, first of all, define infrastructure. But second of all, that's really bad, man. China fucking sucks. Look at the population difference. Look at how much China needs to do to catch up to the tonnage that America moves on roadways or railroads or anything. And then look at how much they're spending, and you gotta laugh at China. Oh man, your comparison is so bad. It's like people who try to compare France, the road and rail infrastructure in France, to America. You can't. Okay, we're literally talking about a little tiny country, which is actually kind of small in comparison compared to a continent, right? We're not quite the size of a continent here, but we are a continent-spanning nation. We actually have pretty damned good infrastructure, all things considered. None of the people who talk about infrastructure actually can give me the numbers or will accept the numbers when I provide them about tonnage moved, how things work, with money spent, where the money goes. Our infrastructure problems or our infrastructure renewal needs. We have them, but they're not what the progressives use as political talking points. And that's one of the really big deals, I think, when we're talking about the transportation, the Department of Transportation right now, the Transportation Secretary, Pete Buddyplug, and his whole thing, right? His ideas of infrastructure improvement are political and not practical. And I think that insofar as we do need infrastructure renewal, we need to work on the renewal. Insofar as we need infrastructure development, that's great, but the Pareto, the Pareto principle. What he wants to do is reverse triage. He wants to use the majority of the infrastructure development to serve the 5% use case. And I don't think that, and there's no way that you're going to make that into an 80% use case just by spending the money, okay? You can't, the fundamental problems with mass transit are going to exist no matter what you do, okay? And the infrastructure goals that we're looking at here, the infrastructure crap that we're looking at here with Pete Buttigieg and his spend all the money on the 5% case, it's not going to be enough. It's not going to help. It's actually going to be bad. And people want to say some sort of point of pride that if we just had as much rail as Japan, or if our trains were faster or something, that's not going to get the food to the grocery store. It's not going to get the food off the farms. It's not going to get the hay moved across an entire continent. It's not going to change the lifestyle of the rural population. It's not going to fundamentally change the lifestyle of the urban populations. It's going to make it easier for the elites who hate their cars to take a $500 train ticket to go eat dinner in another city and come back. That's all it does. It's not a very good infrastructure system. So I don't like to listen to a lot of the debates because they're based on self-hatred. They're based on trying to take countries that have completely different systems, square miles, urban centers, social systems, governmental systems, histories, and try to make negative comparisons about how awful America is with them. And they try to engage in social engineering without the rest of the social engineering, without looking at consequences or needs. And so I don't like the infrastructure, the top-down infrastructure development ideas as they are presented. There's some very valid things that we can talk about, but we have to talk about them without blame, hatred, without all of the value assignments, okay? You need to first start with, what do we need? What does our infrastructure need to do? It needs to move people and goods from here to there, not tell people that they can't live here or there. That's it's very backwards that way. And none of this ever touches on the idea of increasing consumerism in society, which is probably the biggest problem we have in terms of population programming, okay? Brainwashing. So that's it. It's not a whole lot. I wanted to touch a little bit on the infrastructure debate. And basically all I'm saying is that we can't have a proper debate or discussion about infrastructure because it's all political acrimony and none of it makes any sense. That's it. I'm pretty close to done with Pete Buttigieg at this point, I think. And we're going to be moving on to some other stuff. There is some other stuff about the right to travel and borders and imperialism and how I feel about all that. We have the Real ID. This actually comes down to the Department of Transportation stuff, because the Real ID Act and how horrible and hard it is to actually get an ID. I'm trying to get another ID in another state, and the process is more difficult than getting a passport, and I should actually just cross the border and create a new identity, and I would be able to get a Real ID faster and easier than trying to deal with Department of Defense birth documents. We'll get to that one. Stay sideways, and remember, we've talked about a lot of notions within the Department of Transportation, the Transportation Secretariat, and this whole social thing that Pete Buttigieg is pushing. But remember that the very small percentage of the progressives, the ones who are the elite broken, who find their brokenness to make them elitist, are pushing. You've got the fundamental right to travel and that freedom, and there's the social benefits of that freedom that are reduced when you go to mass transit-based systems. Deregulation, as incentivized and targeted deregulation to help increase mobility while decreasing the cost of mobility on an individual basis. And infrastructure, which we can't really talk about because you can't have a conversation with someone who's going to just say America sucks. All right, that's it. Stay sideways. See you soon.